I got Lucas McGill here. Tommy Lepore here from Blue Springs South. Brett Norfleet. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Prep Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. We got a great weekend coming up. Hopefully the weather holds, and we will be out at Bridgeton Municipal Athletic Complex, better known as BMAC, right, Kevin?
BMAC.
Absolutely. Great concessions. They got the new concession stand up there where they do the softball deal as well. They have the nice new stuff up there, and they've the number one field. Have you been out there since they redid the field?
Phenomenal playing surface on the infield, especially for the top field. The high school, college level field that they have is one of the top playing surfaces in the St. Louis area. Very impressive.
It really is. They've done a lot of good work out there, and we're going to be out there for the Midland Invitational with Game 7 Baseball. Midland Baseball Club here local in O'Fallon got representing out there, and it was good last year. I'm sure it's going to be good this year. We'll be live streaming on Sunday, the 14U Championship. We saw a dandy out there with some really good guys. Kevin, I'm trying to get some names for you, for the hopper for the freshmen.
Yeah, doing a little scouting, set me up. I appreciate it.
There you go. And so it's always fun. And this is a great story. I'll tell you this, Kevin, because this has to do with last night. On Saturdays, we do a lot of interviews. We set up our studio at the ballpark, and we do interviews. We do baseball trivia. We just go out and have some fun with the players. It's a lot of fun. So the Jackson Travel Organization, it's feeder for the Jackson High School squad. They were out playing 13U team. And we had a couple of the guys come over and we interviewed him. And this one young man, he was just great. He stole the show, basically. And he was just having a good time. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. I closed the show, the Game 7 wrap-up show on Tuesday with him. And last night, we had Quentin Borders as our player of the game for Jackson. I didn't correlate the two, but the young man's name on Saturday for the 13U was Chase Borders, the younger brother of Quentin Borders.
Okay. There we go.
And I'm saying I'd seen him. I saw him there at the end when we were finishing up, and I saw him. I said, "Oh, that kid looks familiar," and whatnot. And his mother stopped and introduced herself, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I didn't connect the two at the time, but so I think that is what is so cool, and it makes it so fun. Here we see this young man heading that direction. His brother having a lot of success. So just a little human interest. You know what?
Just to tie it all together, we've talked about good teams versus good programs, and my thought on Jackson. They have that thing rolling for a reason. They got the little league set up, and they got a pipeline set up to that high school right now for baseball. It's not really a secret, or it's not hard to see why they have a successful high school team.
There you go. And that 13U team finished second in the tournament there. So there you go.
Yeah.
In the championship game. So that's one of the reasons why we do what we do. It's a lot of fun. The kids, the players, and the interaction there, the community of it. It's a lot of fun. So shout out to the Borders family. Great young men there, and we appreciate it very much. So
we opened up in 2019, and basically there was a void in the area. I mean, we saw that there was an opportunity to have a retail store where people could come in and actually touch and feel the tangible object that they're buying.
Now, on to the baseball game. We saw a slugfest basically last night, didn't we, Kevin?
Yeah, that was a fun, entertaining game. A little bit of a wild one, back and forth, and two great teams. And Jackson came out on top of a tight game, 11-9 at Mike Shannon Field.
Got to see Caden Bogenpole on the mound. First time I'd seen him. I know you talked about him. I didn't know, honestly. I know the names. I don't always go and look at the information. I didn't know he was that big.
Big dude.
And early on he was pumping plus 90 with his fastball. And although another top 5 player playing for CBC turned one of those fastballs around in the first inning and hit a laser beam, Caden Peer.
Yes, he did. He got a hold of that one for sure. When we talked about it yesterday during the game, Caden Bogenpool was 90-93 yesterday. He's one of the top pitchers in the state, a tough guy to face, but CBC faces, you think about the arms they see in the MCC, Andrew Dumont, St. Louis U, Garrett Shearer, St. Louis U, Josh Cunningham, DeSmet, Danny Lindsay, Vianney, Jaden Ferguson, Vianney. I'm leaving kids out, which is bad. But those are some of the top guys that CBC would face. That makes it Parker Guthrie, St. Louis U high. They've seen big velocity is my point, and they've seen good pitchers, and they see it on a weekly basis.
And I think it's interesting. We've talked about Vianney in that space, and it just popped in my head. We've been talking about them. You still thought maybe a year off, but it's been their pitching that has propelled them and why I think they're in that mix this year, because they've had the offense. They got the young guys are starting there, but the pitching's been really good, hasn't it?
Yeah, they've had some of the young guys step up on the mound. I think that's been the key to their success. And we've talked about Vianney, and I've kind of just said, hey, keep an eye on them. There'll be a team down the road, and down the road is got to on the road pretty quick. They've sped up the process, and they're having a really nice year. And they've got some seniors that do a really nice job for them as well, with Oliver Degenhart, David Broughton. I talked about Danny Lindsay, who right now is down with an injury. But they have the right mix of senior leaders mixed in with some young talent.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about that here. We're starting to get some of the district pieces out. But one last note on the game last night. Watching this game last night, and we had plenty of scouts out there because, Nazan Zanatello, Caden Bogenpole, Caden Peer, all these kids are out there showing off what they can do. You watch these teams play and this level of baseball, and this is what we talk about when we're talking about where baseball is in Missouri. And to be sure, you're talking about a public school compared to a private school, and the level of talent at a public school like that is really impressive, isn't it, Kevin?
It is very impressive. And, we're talking about at the very start of the show what Jackson's done to set up their, to make their program strong. And they have a great, phenomenal youth program. Um, other public schools do a really good job with their camps and get a hold of their middle school guys. And I understand the argument, the private school thing versus the public. I will say this: a public school has won the past couple Missouri 6A state championships. So,
but I think
I don't think we have an unfair system at this point. The public schools are winning more than their fair share of state championships.
And that's a great point, because I think what you just said, I think these the public schools are working, getting into the younger age levels. They're talking to the kids. The camps and the programs are getting to know these kids, and it's keeping some of those kids at the public school rather than going to the private school, which is fine. And if you go to the private school, I love Coach Horn. Really appreciate getting to meet him and getting to know him a little bit over the past few weeks with our opportunity to go to CBC. Does a great job. They're going to get talent. That's just it.
They're one of the most talented teams in the state, without question. And that's not just an opinion. There was a reason there was about 25, 30 scouts at the game last night.
Exactly. And they're pretty senior heavy, so they're going to have a little turnover here. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And Coach Horn was making mention of that. So they've got some. It'll be interesting to see in the next couple of years how that continues to develop and what they do. You have to reload every now and again, correct?
Yes. Now their offense won't be as ridiculous next year, but it'll still be really good. We got to look at some of those guys last night. Jake McGee was in the leadoff spot, had a really nice game. Derek Pitts had a big game. So there's a couple young guys right there, yes, that are going to be right in the middle of things. That'll go from being like really good players to being stars on the team next year.
I agree, because speed, he hits for power, covers a lot of ground in center field. That piece is going to be there for CBC. Now, I don't know what his natural – I assume it's center field or an outfielder, but, you never know sometimes in high school, because you have players in front of you sometimes where you were playing. But, wow, I was really impressed by that young man. Let's as we finish, so we're going to look at, that's District 1 is Jackson, and CBC is in District 3. So let's, Class 6 here, let's start there in 1, because they don't have that district up yet, so we're not quite sure where that's going to go. But let's do this real quick, Kevin. I want to look at this before we move on. I'll do this. At least we'll know. We don't know. I would imagine Jackson's probably going to be the number 1 seed in that district. Fair?
Yes, they will. Yeah, they'll for sure be the number 1 seed.
But you still have Lindbergh with Dan Bjorn there. You got Melville, who's having a really nice season. Seckman is always tough. I don't know much about Poplar Bluff, Oakville. You have Northwest High School, Cedar Hill, and you have Fox. What do you think about all that?
It'll be a solid one. I would say Jackson would be heavily favored with their 1-2 combo there with Caden Bogenpool and J.P. Sauer. And then we saw that offense last night kind of carry them to a win too. So they're going to be really tough. Now Seckman is having a really nice year. They're a strong team. Lindbergh's obviously a team that can cause big problems with Dane Bourne on the mound. You got Michael Polite, junior shortstop heading to University of Memphis. That that could be a problem. Melville has is going to be a tough out as well.
They're 21-6 right now.
Yeah, so that's probably the 2 seed. I would imagine. It kind of you never know how some of that voting goes, though.
Right.
Someone could say, "Oh, Jackson has more losses than they do," without looking at the strength of schedule, and so it can kind of get into a popularity contest a little bit.
That's what you want to avoid.
See.
Yeah.
Right.
So, in district,
Maloney's the ace of Melville, heading to Arkansas State, and that's a guy that's 88, 92, so another big arm, and so there's some tough matchups in there for sure.
And when we get the seeds, we'll be able to talk a little bit more. But I think you're right. I think Jackson is definitely the favorite to come out of there, and probably will if everything goes. There's always the surprise. That's what we were talking about that before the start. Any given day.
Yeah, you look at this, and I don't know. I'm just going to play. I am not suggesting I know who's going to be seated where, but let's just pretend that Jackson's the 1, and we'll say Lindbergh's the 4 or the 5, and they get a opening round win without Dane Bourne pitching, and then they throw Dane Bourne in the second game. They could absolutely, might even be favored in that game. Dane Bourne's one of the best pitchers in the state. I am a big proponent of going to a double elimination style for the first round in district play. For more or less that reason. Now, Lindbergh's phenomenal. They were in the state Final Four last year. So that was just strictly an example because they have one of the top pitchers. But take the schools out of it. I just think that in the sport of baseball, a single elimination is a tough deal. Now, I get there's a point where you probably have to go to that at the state Final Four level, maybe even in the sectional, but I do think in that district round, you could absolutely get away with going into a double elimination format and run it over the course of a full week. And you would be I think the coaches would like that. I think the players would like that. And I also think we would more often than not come out of this with the top team in each district. Not necessarily the 1 seed every time, but it would take out a little bit of the craziness, if you will.
I would love to see this if you can do this. And I don't know the ramifications of all this, and maybe this is a conversation to have with Misha, on the baseball side. But what you're saying there, I think that's a great conversation. You have the double elimination there. You get into you got 8 teams left because there's 8 districts, and I think it's fantastic. And at the Class 6 and Class 5, why couldn't you then run a World Series type event?
And I will say this, and this is a tough job for Misha, I will say that. But, you get into this, here's our championship format, this is our bracket. Every sport is unique, and, what works in football might be a little different in basketball, which obviously you are going to run single elimination in those type of events. Baseball is completely unique, even so more so than softball, where it sets up as a game of series, and there's a reason they play 162 games in a big league. There's a reason in college baseball they play 3-game series. There's a reason they have a double elimination format in college baseball postseason, and there's a reason March Madness is single elimination in college basketball. So it's just, I think it's time Misha in the state of Missouri take a really hard look at our postseason format. I get there are some issues that might arise. There's travel, there's cost, but I think if you're looking at what creates the best student athlete experience, I think that's it. I will also say that I do favor this in the larger schools, but
Yes.
not for the smaller schools, and that's for pitching depth reasons. I don't think we could pull this off at the 1, 2, or 3A. Where that line is, I don't know.
And
We'd
I
have
think
to get
even 4.
coaches together. And yeah, maybe that 4A's, maybe not, but for sure in the 5 and the 6A, I would like to see him go to the double elimination.
And because I think that leaves that, because the way it's structured, if it got bigger, I don't think it would necessarily, but the way it's structured, you have 8 districts, and I think that works out perfectly. And maybe that's their thought process. Maybe we haven't heard. Maybe that sets up in that respect. Maybe that's why they split and went to that sixth classification. It's possible,
Right.
And maybe we keep having these conversations. We'll get to that place.
Yes, and at some of the smaller classes, we do have sectionals before quarterfinals, so there's more rounds. So it's a little bit different format. But with the larger schools, we're going districts and then a quarterfinal and then Final Four. I think there's room there to take a really hard look at going to a double elimination format in district play.
And that's, and here's the other thing too. And I know this, again, infrastructure and how do you do this? How do you pull that off, with a scenario like if you have the classes 1 through 4 with the traditional, what they've done, in one location, and then you have the Class 5 World Series or State Series in another one and the Class 6 in another one. I think you can create some really nice movement throughout the state in those types of situations, giving a little bit look and broadening the scope of the fan base opportunities. I know that's infrastructure, that's manpower, that's a lot of things to deal with. I get it. It's a big idea.
Yeah.
So that's our perspective on the day, Kevin.
There we go.
Oh yeah, we'll fix it. We got it. Let's go to District 2. This is a dandy. I got to pick 'em here with maybe, and I don't know Waynesville. I don't think they have the record. They're the 8th seed, but they're 2-20. So I think that may be the outlier. But Eureka, Marquette, Lafayette, Vianney, Parkway West, Lebanon, Parkway South. I know Parkway West is a little down, but they're still they still got talent.
Yeah, I think this is a wide open bracket. I would say, Eureka in that opening game, I feel really pretty confident there. But beyond that, it's wide open. Vianney's, of course, having a great year, but Parkway West is good. They're going to, I guess, throw Mason Benno right off the bat. For Parkway West, they have some plenty of talent there. Gannon Snyder, Tyler Lang. They have plenty of talent to pull off an upset. Lebanon's having a huge year. They're doing really well. And then Parkway South is a strong team. And then have the left-hander Brady Kellenbrink committed to LSU. Eddie Ahern, strong right-hand pitcher. So especially that bottom half, I could see anything shaking out. I would favor Vianney, but it honestly wouldn't shock me to see really anyone come out of that bottom part of the bracket.
And I agree. Yeah.
And then, with Marquette and Lafayette, that's pretty much a coin toss game. Marquette can hit. Lafayette has some bats. Jack Halabowski, the leader at Marquette, they're having a big year. Lafayette, Xander Schmidt is a stud heading to KU. Um, here's an interesting one. They have PJ Rogan, ambidextrous pitcher, which is going to help out in district play from you still have your Missouri pitch count rules and whatnot, but he'll be a little fresher than most in a 1 week
Can he
condensed bracket.
can he throw 105 pitches
No,
with each arm?
no, that would make it really advantageous for him. But
Right?
um,
That would be
yes,
interesting.
um, and then Eureka, I would have to call them the favorites, but
Yeah.
it's
29
close.
and 3.
Beyond,
29
yeah,
and 3, Kevin.
exactly. But it is close. Lafayette just beat them soundly a week ago.
Yes.
So I think this is going to be a fun district, and fairly open ended. I mean, I could see a number of these teams running through this. So this is one to keep an eye on, and this is going to be a wild one, I think.
This is what you're talking about with the one and done format. As open and these teams are as good as they are, you have a guy and whatnot. This is the one where you go, oh, I didn't see that guy coming out of that one, because Eureka being the favorite. And there you go.
Well, case in point, Parkway South, the 6th seed, is going to play Lebanon. Now, I think Parkway South is probably the strongest 6th seed without knowing all the seeds in the state. They are really good. That they're going to face Lebanon, and Lebanon's going to get Brady Kellenbrink, LSU commit, in game 1, I would imagine.
Right.
And they could be heading home. Now, I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that's a tough draw for a 3 seed to get that type of arm. It would be a completely different look if it was double elimination. Same thing with Parkway West and Vianney. I mean, Mason Beno is having a phenomenal year. And that's who the 2 seed's going to face.
And you look at strength of schedule with Lebanon. They lost to Nixo. They beat Glendale 1-0. So when you're looking at top teams within this, Jeff City they beat 7-5, Class 5 squad. So when you're looking at some of the top schools around Camdenton, they lost to Camdenton 8-2. Lebanon did. So it'll be interesting as far as strength of schedule. When you're looking at some of that, is Lebanon, they're 22-8, going up against a Parkway South that I think maybe played a little better competition. When you're looking at, as you say, the SOS, the strength of schedule.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to look at those things. So where District 3 is not up yet, and the homegrown GAC District 4 bracket is up, and the aforementioned Fort Zumwalt West is the number 1 seed here, followed by Francis Howell, which is fair since West was 4-0 against Howell.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear cut who the one should be. Zumwalt West is deserving. They proved it on the field, and I think it's fairly clear cut who the 2 seed should be.
Yep.
So I don't have any. I think this is coaches did a pretty good job of putting this together. Obviously, you got Howell Central and Timberland there at 4-5. That's close.
And here's we've been talking about West kind of since April 26th. They split with Francis Howell Central. They beat a good Zumwalt South team. They beat Edwardsville 12-8. They lost to Troy Buchanan 3-2. Go ahead.
I was going to say the interesting thing about this bracket, and everyone talks about Zumwalt West and Francis Howell, and they should. Those 2 teams are elite. Both have been to the Final Four within the past 2 years. Troy has beat both of those teams this year, and they're the 3 seed. So, it's not just Francis Howell and Zumwalt West here. And I would say the same thing about Howell Central. They have a pair of kind college level left-handed pitchers and Braden Rubel and Lane Harris. Timberland has St. Louis U signing Jackson Yarberry and the McCaleb twins. So there's some meat on this bone here for whoever's going to bring this one home. This is a tall order.
Oh yeah, I love how you.
This
put
isn't
that.
just, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to play a championship game with Howell and Zumwalt West, and that'll determine it. Whoever gets the championship game of this one will have earned it.
I love this too. I'm looking at Troy's schedule to finish out here today. It's because this is Wednesday. We're recording this. Zumwalt South. Troy Buchanan is at Zumwalt South. They got Parkway North, and then they got a doubleheader on Saturday with Jefferson City. So it's not like that's quality competition right there, leading into district play.
Really strong.
So they're not shying away from playing good competition. So that kind of steals you heading into trying to get on the movement towards district play. So I think for, as you said, Howell Central, they've been they're 18-16. They've had really good wins, and they've had some losses that you're like, okay. And so that is where
the thing about Howell Central is heading into district, you're going to get their 1 and 2, at least the first 2 games. So
right.
That makes them dangerous. There might be some depth issues when you get beyond that, but on the first 2 days, you're not going to have those issues.
Yeah, exactly. And they've struggled over the last 5 games. They split with Troy. They've lost a couple to Eureka. They lost to Lafayette. They lost to Liberty, Wentzville. So they've got SLU today to finish out their season. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against SLU, Howell Central, as they move into district play. And I think that's really important, trying to get, some confidence as you go into that tournament, especially with the one and done. Confidence is king.
Yes, sir.
District 5. Here's a good one. Blue Springs South, of course, the number 1 seed there in District 5. Here's a team that won a championship. Did they win the championship? I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3. Maybe it was. I'm trying to remember. But Grain Valley at Class 5 won a champion, right? And they've been since bumped into Class 6, and so here they are sitting there at the 4 seed. So that's a quality team at the 4 seed there, with Rockbridge number 2, and then number 3, of course, Blue Springs.
This is one of the best districts in the state this year. You got Blue Springs South and Rockbridge are in our top 4 in our large school rankings. So you got those 2 right off the top. Then you got Grain Valley, Hickman, who's having a very nice year, and Blue Springs, which is, the 3 seed, and they're having, they've won 20 ball games. They got Cole Gibbler, who's a left-hand pitcher heading to Arkansas. So this is going to be a knockout, drag out type competition here. This is going to be a doozy of a district, and you got to favor Blue Springs South, I would say, with the pitching. But Rockbridge has been really good. They've played a challenging schedule, and there's a reason they're ranked where they're ranked. So it could absolutely see it being Rockbridge, but then both those teams are going to have a tough semifinal matchup just to get to the district finals.
Well, and too, as we talked about Grain Valley, they're starting off with a Hickman that's 20-10, right? And so they're on a 4-game win streak, beating Father Tolton, Rolla, Springfield Catholic, and Battle. I just don't. and here's the other thing that we, as we were talking about earlier, Kevin, when you go through a district like this, how many bullets are you expending? How much energy are you expending just to get out of your district and then heading to the quarterfinals? I think it's maybe a little different than because there's no sectionals, so there's a little more time off. Maybe you get a little more rest.
You get to reload. You get your week. I would say the one advantage that the 1 and the 2 seeds in particular have, because Green Valley, Hickman, those are dangerous teams. They're going to have to go, put their best foot forward in the opening game to assure they advance. Same with Blue Springs and William Chrisman there. So a Blue Springs and a Rockbridge, they can probably hold their number 1 to the second game, whereas those other schools have to empty out the barrel right away to advance, and then that would be a nice advantage to have there.
Number 6 is not up yet. Number 7's not up yet, and number 8, of course, last year we called it the District of Death, but it's still going to be a tough one. Liberty North, who you've had it, I think you guys have them back at number 1 this week, don't you?
They are back at number 1. They have kind of been back and forth with Blue Springs South all year on who's number 1. There are defending 6A champions. They are the 1 seed in District 8. District 8 is really, really strong. I don't think it's quite as strong as it's been, not from the top, but just from the middle and depth. It might not be as deep as it's been, but it's still really good. Liberty, who won state 2 years ago, and then Staley, traditional power and having a good year. Now they're young. I think they'll be stronger next year, but they're a handful. They could absolutely win this district. So you got those 3 that you would kind of favor in that district there.
Staley's 20-12, and on May 1st, Liberty North and Staley played. Staley won it 21-15. The old slugfest. So
Staley can hit. I was just over there on Friday, and they run ruled Lee Summit. They got some major bats, so they can absolutely hit their way to a victory.
Not only that is as Liberty North finishes, they have on this schedule on May 12th, which would be Thursday, I believe. Yes, no, Friday. Excuse me. Right, Friday. Yeah, 12th. I can do math. Yes. They got Liberty on their schedule. So here we have Liberty North, last game of the season before you get into districts.
Wow, that's that'll be interesting to see how they go about that. I would imagine, those are obviously huge rivals.
Yeah.
But a week before district, I would imagine you would maybe give a sophomore an opportunity on the mound, or a senior that isn't one of the top guys maybe a chance on the mound, because you wouldn't want to be pitching anyone that would be determining things in a potential district final game the following week.
That's just bold.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. That just so without predictions, I mean, we're not going to do that just yet. We'll close. We'll do some stuff next week, but we wanted to just kind of get a look because not everything is up yet. Class 5, Kevin, in the 8 district. Kearney is the number 1 seed. Smithville's had a really good year. In that 22-10, I think those 2 teams. Platte County is the 3 seed, the defending Class 5 champ. So I think you got some pretty good stuff there. Right there. Yeah.
Yes.
And then when the 7, now I don't know if you know much about this, but McDonald County is the number 1 seed in District 7, and I'm not. They're playing Logan Rogersville. They beat Logan Rogersville last night, 1-0. So that's a good win.
It's absolutely a good win because Logan Rogersville is our number 1 small school and a really good team. So McDonald County having a strong season. I would say Webb City, always a traditional power, strong ball club there. So that'll be another solid bracket.
Those down there in that Southwest, that's something I'm hoping to work towards and getting some people that we can have and talk to a little bit more to get that view from down in that Southwest, because I mean, like I said, McDonald County, Webb City, of course, as you said, they're a traditional football power too, aren't they?
Yeah, Webb City's just good athletic program.
Very good. Warrensburg is the 4 seed, along with Belton being the 3 seed at 16 and 12. So that'll be interesting. The District 6, not up yet. District 5 is not up yet. District 4 is not up yet. District 3 is not up yet. District 2 is available in Class 5. And Clayton High School, the number 1 seed, at 10 and 15. So that kind of gives you an idea of this district here. There's not a lot of strength in it. It's just a fact. The number 2 seed, McClure North, at 10 and 7. So I think that's interesting that they're the 2 seed and Clayton is the 1 seed. There you go. This one I have no idea about, Kevin. We got to look at some of these schools. Vashon Miller Career Academy, Solden International Studies, McClure is the 6th seed. So that one's going to be that district. Somebody's coming out of there with less than. There's only one record over that I see that's over 500.
Yeah. Now, Clayton plays a very good schedule typically.
Do
so
they?
I could see them being under 500 and still being the 1 seed. Great facility there in Shaw Park. All field turf that they play on. Nice scoreboard. I could see how they would be the favorite in that one.
So they are finishing. They got Duchesne on the schedule along with Afton to finish out their schedule. So there you go. And then we'll see if District 1 is posted. No. So we only had 2 of the Class 5 districts posted right now. So it's still early, but it's not too early to take a look at these. Class 6 is looking to shape itself up. And a lot of the
I know a lot of these come out tomorrow on Thursday. So we'll be looking anxiously for those at the end of the week.
Exactly. And so we may be back a little bit early next week, and we can we'll spend a little time putting some of this together and put some predictions together. I always like to do it because I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish today's segment with this, Kevin, and how bad I was in my predictions for the GAC winners. Oh, mercy. It wasn't good. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. So, it's just one of those things. Oh, hang on. I got to get to the right. I didn't have this up. I meant to bring it up before we started, and I didn't. So bear with me just 1 second. I'm almost there. There it is. So here were the projected finishes for 2023, Kevin. And I'm going to pull this up too. This won't take that long. And I want to show people how predictions are like opinions.
This was your preseason GAC predictions? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was. So, and this why it's fun. You can do this and then you kind of see how high school baseball is really somewhat unpredictable in that respect. Actually, I got to change that. Yeah, there we go. 2023. There it is. So, I had in the GAC North, St. Charles West finishing 1, Warrenton 2, Orchard Farm 3, St. Charles 4, Winfield, and North Point. The final tally was Winfield, Warrenton, St. Charles West, North Point, St. Charles, then Orchard Farm. So, I guess not horrible. Winfield, Warrenton, St. Charles. So I had Warrenton in second place. Huzzah.
There you go.
I got one right. That was it. I got one right. How about that, right? There you go. So that's the way that ended up. In Class 5, or in the GAC Central. Oh, hang on. I don't think I got any of this correct either. So we will see. I'm pulling all these up here. And the prediction was Holt in first place, followed by Zumwalt East, then Zumwalt South, Liberty, Washington, and Zumwalt North. The final tally was Washington, Fort Zumwalt South, Fort Zumwalt East, Liberty, Fort Zumwalt North, and Holt. They were all 3-7, so, it's kind of a pick 'em there. Liberty is finished with the best. They've got the better overall record. So that's why that's kind of there. But I had them in fourth place, and that's where they're at with the record. But Washington I had down at 5, and they, 23-8 this year, 9-1 in league. Right? So,
yeah.
So that, I just blew that one up. This is fun. How bad are you? That bad. All right, so the biggie, GAC South. I had Howell Central, Zumwalt West, Timberland, Troy, and Howell North. With the final tally, Zumwalt West and Howell were co-champions at 7-3. Then Troy Buchanan, Timberland, Howell Central, and Howell North. So I had one right. There you go, man. Pretty good, huh?
Tough game to play.
That's why, as we talked about, as you've said, the unpredictability of high school baseball, the constants are that one scenario with the coaches. How do you move? Because the kids' health, your pitching, where does that go? It's high school baseball.
Yes, it is. You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. So, Kevin, looks like we're gearing up for a pretty good postseason.
Yeah, 1 week away, less than a week away, and next week starts up district play, and we're looking forward to that. And then we got about a 3-week ride, and it's my favorite time of year.
Exactly. And so, folks, if you want to follow Kevin on Instagram and Twitter, it's at PBR_Molder. If you want to follow PBR Missouri, it's at PBR Missouri, Twitter and Instagram. So make sure you check that out. It's good follow. The player postings get up, the videos and whatnot, keeping track of these guys and what's going on around the state. And so we appreciate you, Kevin, being part of Youth Baseball Midwest.
Thank you. Love doing it. A lot of fun. Looking forward to the postseason.
Absolutely. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. While you're here, please, if you have not yet, hit the subscribe button. Hit the dinger next to it, because that's what we do. And we saw about 4 of those, I think, last night. Right out of the old park. There's some dingers hit by some dudes. It was a lot of fun. And so that'll get you all your notifications for upcoming episodes. We'll be back next week. We might be back a little bit earlier with this, because we want to get into the districts before they start and make sure that we get everybody up to speed on what's happening. So till next week, everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, Kevin?
Keep throwing strikes.
Absolutely. Hitters, hit a couple dingers. That'll help you out there. We'll see you all next time.